this out of your way. So, I think what would be most helpful is if you two just introduced yourselves. So,
Okay, I'm Dawn Summers. My husband.
Dave Summers.
We live in a very rural area. The town actually has 16,000 people, which doesn't sound small, but most of the towns that we are closest to have about 1,000 people in them. We have 7 daughters, 17 grandchildren, and I've had several foreign exchange students from different countries.
that's awesome. So, what made you interested in becoming a sponsor in the first place?
I'm gonna try not to get teary-eyed, even though it's been a really long time, but it happens a lot. So it was February 24th. I was watching the news, and the war looked very different than what I envisioned it to be. It was not a third world country. It wasn't a climate I didn't understand. It wasn't a landscape I didn't recognize. There were all these women and children and, you know, wearing the same clothes and the same Nike shoes, getting on a train that looked like our train, and having to flee their country. I was devastated about what was going on and wanted to help. So I started researching, gosh, they're going to Poland, they're going to Ireland, they're going to Scotland. Can anybody come here? And there was nothing. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and there was a ticker that went across my screen early April that said that the Department of Homeland Security was opening United for Ukraine April 24th. So every day since then, so I went right to their website thinking, okay, and there was no information, no more than the ticker said, because nothing had been uploaded, no explanation. So probably on April 24th, I tried probably 25 times, and it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon that I got through and the application was open. So, being extremely naive, I started filling out the whole application, gathered all my documents, uploaded everything, and then it says, information about your beneficiary. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know anyone in Ukraine. I kind of thought that I would sign up and you would say, here. On the Department of Homeland Security's website, there was a blurb about Welcome US. So I went to their website and they had one video uploaded about being a sponsor, and it was not about this sponsorship, and everything else said under construction. And I'm like, huh. So I researched them and found they had a social media presence. So I went to their Facebook page, and there weren't a lot of Ukrainians on there at the time because they didn't all know about it yet. But there were a few dozen, and Dave and I had decided on women and children. Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Hi!
Alright, there we go. Now we're good. Alright.
Okay, so we're back to the content, looking for Welcome US on the internet, on Facebook. Again, there were several people posting, not hundreds, like in the 20s, and we were looking for women and children. My daughter's friend had been over helping from the Poland side, humanitarian aid, and explain the culture a little bit. Very male run, lean on the males for direction and advice. And so we figured if there was a male involved, they had some stability, even though it was very unstable circumstances. So we met Alessia and Vova. Alessia was 28, Vova 7. And so I applied on May 8th. I think May 11th she was approved, and then realized I had to do a second application. I panicked. Representative was really helpful in assuring me that everything was fine, and they were all, and then like hours after I talked to them, they were both approved. I then said to my husband, hey, we have more room. I feel like if it was, we had someone else come with that like knew the situation, because we don't know the situation. They don't even have anyone to talk to. And he goes, why don't we wait till the first ones get here? And I said, too late. So I had already asked Alessia if there was someone else. And her cousins, well, she said her brother, because they call their cousins brothers, so that was really confusing. Girlfriend, they had been in Kherson, and it was bad. It was really bad. They were completely occupied. Living in a bomb shelter, like a really bad bomb shelter. No electricity, no water. All the military that was in the area had been killed. They had blocked them off from the rest of Ukraine, so they couldn't even go north. There was another huge explosion, I think April 4th, and they came outside and were like, where's everyone going? And the Russians told them they had 3 choices. They could stay and fight for Russia. They could take their chances where they were, or they could get on this bus that's going to go through Russia to get out, which they didn't even know if that was really going to happen. So they got on there. In the meantime, they were hanging, you'll probably know the word for it, but they were hanging like cloths, like white cloths in the window saying there were children. And Paulina literally walked outside and there was a van that had children written on it, and the Russian soldiers just shot the entire van. So she was like, they need to leave. So they got on this bus. They were stopped 8 times. At one of the checkpoints, her boyfriend, Daniel, was taken off for about 11 hours. They were searching for tattoos. They were searching for if there were marks from carrying a gun. And she said there were several people that never got back on, that women were being raped, that others were taken away. They dropped them off somewhere close to Poland and told them they needed to find their way from there. So we took Paulina. She was very scared. It was very last minute, so she didn't have the time to get to know us, and I think she was worried if we were actually who we said we were. Because, we had the best intentions, but I don't know that everybody has the best intentions. And she was worried. She's 22. She had just been through a harrowing ordeal. So yeah, Paulina came with. Her boyfriend Daniel borrowed money and flew to Mexico. He got through on April 24th, and they shut the borders on April 25th. They were so overcrowded in Poland by the time she got there that she had to go to Germany. So she was separated from everybody. Yeah, so that's how we started.
So can you describe the day you picked up your first beneficiaries from the airport?
It was all 3 of them. It was it was at O'Hare. It was crazy exciting. They sent me pictures when they were getting on the plane. They got off, and we didn't have a sign or anything. I mean, like we had exchanged pictures and everything, and we knew the minute they walked off. Nobody spoke English. My husband communicated somehow with Vova.
Yeah, he had a little dog. And I said,
A
what's the
little stuffed dog.
dog's name? And they were able to translate to him what I was asking. Must have picked out some words. And he said, Bobby. So I said, well, how? Bobby flew all the way here. And I took his ears and I said, did he do it like this? And he laughed. And
That
we
was
hear
it.
it all.
That was it. They're together all the time. But when they got here, they literally came with Vova. Had a backpack, like a small child's backpack, like a school bag backpack, for like a small child. Paulina didn't even have that much. She had like the size of a purse. And Alessia had a backpack and a carry-on. That's all they came with. It was a long ride home. It was 2 hours from the airport. So it was very exciting, and we wanted to talk. I did have Google Translate. I now have these fabulous earbuds that are called time kettle.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those.
I wish I had had those a year ago. So it was very hard to communicate, and the translator isn't always like, I speak into it and I can see it's not saying what I want it to say, and I'm like, huh. But yeah, and so the night they got here, they were exhausted, and unfortunately, it was summertime, and our neighbors decided to shoot off fireworks.
Oh.
I was like, huh. They were asleep, and I was thinking maybe they're gonna just think it was a dream, because I felt terrible about it. Yeah, they were very traumatized. They were very nervous. They were very thankful. Yeah, we tried to do everything. Like, we got out of them that Alessia liked to garden, so now it's mid-June. There's not a whole lot of plants left.
No.
But I did go get some. And
One of the first things we did is get large Ukraine
Oh,
maps so that we
me
were
too.
familiar with their country. We didn't know anything about Ukraine, of course, and we kind of wanted to know how Ukraine is set up and what areas they came from, and then also the explanation of what they had to do to get out of the country and get to the different airports that were.
at one point, we had two of them hanging up.
Yeah, we didn't know which one was
It was better.
better, but they were both very good maps. That was helpful to try and
It
understand.
was good for them too.
Hmm.
To be able to like show us and explain the routes and what they went through.
And we've still got our Ukraine flag out
Yeah.
there because
Yeah, that helped me find the place.
we wanted
Oh
to.
yeah, Nice, you saw that.
There you go.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's us.
Yeah, we didn't know, what the flag
Well, when
looked like. We wanted them to have some piece of home
Yeah.
when they got here.
And when they came, it was very different then than it is now. So to get a work permit, like, we were not told that you had to wait 6 to 9 months, and that's what the wait was when they got here. We also weren't told that you had to pay $465. We were like, what? We were told that they were able to get a work permit, so we assumed that everyone that could come here, we could work, that was not our case. So it was, I did a lot of calls, a lot of emails to,
Well, that was the other
The
thing.
federal government.
We wouldn't have Crest Food.
I was gonna get into
Yeah.
that. So the place I worked for was extremely supportive. So they gave them some odd jobs. And I had to remind them, this is not really how people pay for odd jobs. Because they were being overly generous.
While they couldn't work.
Well, they couldn't work.
But
And
Crest, we knew Crest was gonna partner with us and give them jobs if we got them over here. And that was important because we couldn't have found them jobs here that
Probably
easily.
could have, but it was
Not
good.
good jobs.
it was good having them where I was gonna be, so I could help with things.
So they were helpful in saying, yes, we'll employ them as soon as we're legally able to, but.
They even helped us get a vehicle for them to drive.
Yeah, because they had to get to work somehow, and that was another problem is transportation. We do have a little transportation
Did not
company
know
out
that
in
until this whole
Dixon.
thing came up. I looked into
Yeah.
it, and there's a thing called Lee Ogle Transportation Company, and they will drive you anywhere. Did not know that was available. So they will drive people to work. They will drive them to the doctor. They will drive to English lessons. They will. So I found that I've learned a lot about our community. Our community has a lot to offer. Like, all the English lessons are through our community college. They're all free. We also have a program called Vital, which is a private tutoring. So we have volunteer tutors. Alessia and Paulina had probably, besides their classes, which were twice a week for 2.5 hours, they had tutoring for probably 5 hours a week. So actually, the time that they couldn't work, it was to their benefit. Because they were able to learn English, get accustomed, everything. I see that a little harder now because people are going right to work, and so they don't have it's hard to work all day and then go to English classes at night. They're exhausted. But we had a lot I didn't know about.
Yeah, as far as transportation goes, I think a lot of the people in Ukraine are kind of from the cities and stuff. At least maybe our group,
Wow.
some of our groups were.
Somewhere
And
and somewhere.
here, they come here and they're out in the boonies and you're stuck. You can't, the town's only 3 miles away, but you're not gonna walk there. And so, you know, we had to kind of let them know we're in the country, and they don't, I mean, of course, they don't know what that means. You're in the country,
I
yeah,
did-
of course
I did
you are,
explain
the
it.
country of the United States.
So,
That's how we say things, and
well, when you put things in perspective, I sent Alyssa a message when I first agreed to be a sponsor and said, just so you know, we do not live in the city. We live like 100 miles from Chicago, and we live on a farm, and we have a dog. And she's like,
of course, Chicago is one of the
She's
first
like,
places
I-
I want to see.
I am,
Yeah.
we are ready for any difficulties. We are fleeing a war. And I was like, yeah, point well taken.
Yeah.
And then the day they got here, my daughter was moving, and so I had her whole family here too. And I'm like, you guys are gonna have to share a room. She's like, again, lived with 100 people in one room in a refugee camp. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it.
So, one of the things I would love to ask is, you guys have shared some of the challenges, even though I know there were a lot more. I'd love to hear, what were some of the rewarding points of actually doing this? What were the high points?
The high points is
The high
that
points were they're all just good people and never had an issue with anybody. In the time that they spent with us, they've been very pleasant to be around, and they cook all the time.
I'm very sad I have no one living here now because now I have to
And
cook
they
again.
cook at different times than we do.
That was a hard one.
And so they're always offering food, and I'm breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I wait for Dawn for dinner, who's working all day, and I'm here, but they're constantly offering me food, and always good food, because they eat at different times, and as just to be social or whatever, they would sit down at meals with us. And we go to church on Sundays, and we offered that, and if they wanted to, and a lot of times they would go with us. So, you know, and we went to the city to see what Ukraine church was like, and
Boy, that was,
quite different than what we're used to.
So you went to a Ukrainian Orthodox church?
yes.
Which one, out of curiosity?
We went to
I know. I
St.
could tell you.
Vladimir, I think.
St. Volodymyr?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep, that's one of the
I think
the
we did.
bigger
Not
cathedrals.
the, not, maybe
Yes,
that wasn't
that
it. It
is,
was
yeah.
not the big gold one.
Okay.
It was the other one.
All right.
I grew up Catholic. We're Methodist now, but
That's okay.
so Catholic. So I recognized a ton of stuff going on, right? Even though I couldn't understand it.
Do you recognize the liturgy?
Yeah, I knew what we were doing. Although they have the candles, that was different. And they came up down the aisle with candles, like 3 for women, 3 for women and 3 for men, and they handed one to my husband, and I'm like, I took it and gave it to Pedro.
Candles
I'm
were this
like,
long.
I'm not doing this.
much
He doesn't know what he's doing. So for me, I think the best thing was just being able to help and seeing how appreciative and how much like anybody can do to help. It really wasn't that big a deal. In the beginning, there were some challenges, but honestly, they're just people like us, and
Well,
the
when they first
relationships.
came here, they said, you know, kind of like we're sitting at the table here, and saying, well, what's your expectations for us? And I said, if you're with us, you're family. That's the way it's always been.
You're gonna get tripped up. They were family. We protected them. I did not do any fundraising or anything like that because I felt like they'd been through enough. So it was word of mouth. People that wanted to help, and there were plenty that wanted to help. So I was very careful about waiting till they were ready to introduce them and put them out there, which we did do. We went to Rotary when they were ready, and it actually was great because after we spoke with them, I got a call and they put the whole town put a group together to bring 2 families over.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was laughing at them. They had like 8 committees. And I was like, huh. And they raised a ton of money and they did all this stuff. And I was like, they're like, how did you do it? I'm like, how did you raise the money? I'm like, I didn't. We just
But,
did it.
you know-
And honestly, it wasn't that expensive. So if anyone says that, it's really not. I mean, it is like, do you use a little more electricity? Yeah. Do you use a little more heat? Yeah. Other than that, their benefits came through very quickly. So we were very fortunate on that, and I never had an issue with that. One was a little delayed, I had to call, or the state of Illinois would send a card but no letter. And the other one got a letter and no card. So they knew they were getting money but nowhere to get it. And the other one didn't know what they were getting because they just had a card. So we had a couple of those things happen. Other than that, everything went smooth. I did, like I said earlier, I did struggle a little bit when it first happened, and it was actually all happening. It said, call your local refugee resource center. And I was like, we live in Northern Illinois out in the middle of the country. We don't have one of those. So,
For the longest time though, we couldn't talk to them.
Yeah.
And so it was just like watching, body language. Are you comfortable here? And it was pretty obvious that they were. And, Volva being a little 7-year-old running around here in this property and horses and
he was there all weekend. He's like, do I have to go home?
yeah.
Can I stay?
And they sit here and they look at that picture and they know what we're all about here and they want to know every one of those.
And they do.
And they do, yeah. They've met every one of our grandkids and such, and that was real important to them. The family atmosphere was, because they're missing their families back there and stuff.
So when they first came, I was a little overwhelmed. I thought, I said I would do this, but there's I don't know where to turn for help. I didn't know. I wasn't worried about me. I was worried not knowing how to help them. And so I was trying to see what was available for them. How do you do those things? We did not have a refugee resource center anywhere near us. I had called several that were on the state's website. A lot of them are overwhelmed with the whole Afghanistan thing because it came at the same time. I was turned away or told I couldn't help me till August, and that was not an option.
How many months between then and August was that?
3.
3 months.
Mm-hmm. So I had nowhere to know how to get English. I had nowhere to know how to get benefits. I had nowhere to know what was available to them, how to get a work permit. I mean, I didn't know anything. So I did a lot of research. I did get a hold of one in Rockford that wasn't so overwhelmed with being in the Chicago area. And they were very helpful. They helped. I had already signed up for benefits through the website. And they're like, that's not gonna work because it's gotta go to special ops. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do, but it actually did go through. It went fine. Theirs went fine. But by the time I got there, I actually wasn't much work for them because I already had done the work permit. I had already done, the work permit was actually hard. They didn't want it. And they didn't want public aid. They didn't want any help because they were told in Ukraine that if they took any government benefits, they could never stay here if that opportunity came. And I am telling you to the point that we talked to them for an hour. They talked to an interpreter for an hour. And she's like, I don't know what else to do. They are saying that the Republicans have said that if you, and I'm like, oh no, you're here illegally, you're here legally. And I'm like, you really need this. Like, I cannot support you for like 2 years. We're hoping to get you on your feet. I mean, that was our idea. And finally they believed me, but they had been on Telegram, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst things that there's out there. Because then they tend to listen to Ukrainian stories and not people that are here. So once we got them to agree to do the aid, but when I went to the refugee center, I I already knew we filled out the I-765. At that time, you had to pay $465. My work, the owner of my work paid for that. And then you didn't need to pay after that. But we did. So once they got their work permits, we also are just English speaking work, which we are no longer that. So they all of them have had an opportunity to work there. 2 of them have moved up since they've been here into like a really good department. My department, but I did not choose them, someone else did. So it was a little tough in the beginning, just not knowing. But like I said, I had already done. So when we went to the refugee center, they're like, "Okay, we're gonna try to line up work and English lessons." I'm like, already done. English lessons was tough because they end in May and don't start again until August. Again, my shoulders just fell, and then they told me about this program called Vital, and there was a tutor. There was a man at my work that was an immigrant from Poland. So he gave me his tutor's information, and he actually helped me with some of those other programs I wouldn't have known about. And Alessia was ESL Student of the Year. So that was fun. So that's how it all started.
So I'm gonna have limited space on
Okay.
the devices. One thing I'd love to hear is like, what is big takeaway or big thought in kind of how you've approached or like how this has gone? Like if you could say anything to other sponsors, what would it be? Like whether it's advice, whether it's encouragement, whether.
Okay.
Well, in our case, we've heard of a lot of cases that weren't good, but our people have been pretty good. I mean, we didn't have any issues, but we've heard a lot because she's on a sponsor network, and there's a lot of rough stories out there, but we can't confirm that with the individuals that we
I would say that it's really not that hard, and it is such a huge deal. And when you do it, you're not only helping them, but you're just hugely increasing your life and your family's life, even our extended family. I always believe that every conversation you have with someone, your life changes. Like it's not the same as it was 10 minutes ago since I met you. And our lives won't be the same after meeting them. And I just really want to say it's not that hard. It just really isn't that hard. They're helpful, they're motivated, they're appreciative, and they're not a burden. All 18 want to be on their own and independent, sometimes to a fault where they want to be independent and not bother me on things that I could be more help to, right? So we have to kind of redo some stuff. I'd also say don't hurry to get them out. 3 months doable, I think. 6 months is probably ideal. By the time they get acclimated, get driver's license, get on their feet. It's also really, the things that are really hard. Car insurance is really, really hard. Because they treat them like they're 16-year-old males because they don't have a driving record. So it's extremely expensive. We had to go around that a little bit. We were able to put them, since they lived at our house for more than 90 days, on our insurance. They have a separate policy, but they're under ours, so that took everything down. Cell phones are hard. Their cell phones, most of them, are not compatible. So finding cell phones that are reasonably priced that they can. Let me give a plug for Verizon, because that's what we went through, but they've been really good. They were able to put them on for small amount and waived the fees to start the lines. The other thing that was really hard was finding places to live. First of all, availability, even in our area, but people want a credit history and a renting history, and they don't have it. So we live in a small community where a lot of people know each other, and we were able to find a small house for Veronica and Petro, and then the ones who were here for Marina, Alina, and her mom came, and it's a small 3-bedroom house, but they're all there, and you know, rent was $750, so way different than other places. They expected you could just go up and knock on the door and say, furnished apartment, $200.
Because as they say, that's the way it is back home.
And for Alessia and Vlad and two of the other families, there was a Ukrainian community that came here probably 25 years ago, and not just in our area, probably within 60-mile radius. And there were some connections there, and we found a very nice apartment, and now 3 families live there. But it was hard. Not having a credit history is really difficult.
Well, one of the things I love about you guys' story is how much your Dixon, Illinois community came around you
It's
and
crazy.
Support, and that's one of the beautiful things about talking to other sponsors who work and live more out in rural areas. Usually you see that community come around in such a wonderful way.
Well,
And the main,
Speaking of-
yeah,
so we have a big thing called the Petunia Fest, and they did a meet and greet Ukrainian thing there, and so we were there. We've also talked to a few different places. We're in the paper a couple different times on the news. I had gotten a call from someone that worked with Dave years ago and wanted to know how to do this, and this was like 4 weeks ago, and her people arrived Thursday. So
well,
and there was a problem.
The fact that when Alessa did get some English lessons, she was happy to speak
Oh,
to
yeah.
Rotary in Dixon, and because of
And some
that,
churches and
Dixon chose to try to get a family
they have
themselves,
2 of them. So
and did, and
yeah, small towns they really came around, and the schools, amazing. They put everything on their website. You can translate to Ukrainian. The teachers were a little freaked out at first because they had not dealt with this. The ESL teacher was like, "What?" Wonderful, 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 wonderful. If Vova was here today, he didn't know 1 word of English. You would not know that. Like he gets our
1 year
humor.
in school,
He's funny. He's
translating for his
smart.
parents, yeah.
When we're done, I'm
That
going
was
to
all
thank you
first
card that he
grade.
wrote. Yeah, he's. So there's so much out there in your communities that you don't realize is out there.
Yeah.
And you just start asking around and talking about it, and people are willing to help. And again, it's not so hard. Anyone can do it. This lady contacted me, and she actually had a mistake with her email, which I've never had happen. And I'm like, I don't know how to fix that. So I reached out to the sponsor community. They gave me steps. She did that, and within 24 hours, she had that email fixed, and they had their TA, and they're coming on Thursday.
That's awesome. Oh. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done. It really is amazing, and it's.
We don't deserve any thanks. It was. I will tell you.
We tried something, it worked.
It was. You asked me why I did this. Yes, I saw that.
We had the
That
room.
show.
We had rooms upstairs, a bathroom up there. The kids have all grown up and have their own homes, and so we thought, why not? Now there's a lot of people, even in our church and stuff, that said, I just couldn't have a stranger walking around my house. I just couldn't do it. I
We
don't know how
proved to
you
you could though,
how you
because they've
do
all
it.
met him. But what I will say in the very beginning was when this came on me, it was really, really heavy on my heart. Like really heavy on my heart. And I totally believe that God had laid this on my heart, and I didn't really have. I just followed.
Well, at first
there's
you
no way to
heard
walk
so
away.
much about the conflict in Ukraine, and now you don't hardly hear anything about
should
it.
not be
When it
following
was
the
first
news.
happening, and we're seeing this stuff on the news, and it just, for some country to just walk into somebody else's country and just start taking over just didn't seem like a thing this, you
That
know,
should be happening.
in this day of age,
Yeah.
but it does, and
Well, Alessia's home was taken over by the Russians, completely. Her mom went and trained without telling her dad, and is a medic. And yeah, I there's just a big article about
Over
her
there, yeah.
over there. So she's on the front line. She's a medic. She's